You know, even a year ago, I'll admit, I never even expected something like this to happen. I should have, but it just blows my mind away how fast things can change. What's up guys, it is I, the Apple Bite here today, and I'm back with a brand new video for you all. And today we're doing a video over the 32-bit devices. Many of you guys do own these, and I personally have a bunch of 32-bit devices. I've used many of them in my personal life, so it makes sense. A lot of people have 32-bit devices, not as much as 64-bit devices now. 64-bit devices in general, not just iPhones, have taken over pretty much everything. So why am I bringing up the 32-bit iPhones, iPods, and iPads? We're talking about everything that has a 32-bit processor in it. It can be the iPhone 2G, it can be the iPhone 5, it could be the iPod 3, it could be the iPod 5, it could be the iPad 1, it could be the iPad 4. This applies to all of them that have 32-bit processors. Now, I'm sure word has came around and everything. I'm sure if you keep up on Apple stuff and Apple news, you already know what I'm about to talk about, and that is the little notification you get on iOS 10.3 Beta 5. Yes, I know I'm holding a 4S here. It's just a screenshot I got off of Google because I don't have a 10.3 Beta 1 device. My 5S is running 10.2 jailbroken, and my 6 is running 8.4.1, so I don't have any other 64-bit devices, or I don't have anything else that can run iOS 10. Anyway, so if you have a device running iOS 10.3 Beta 1, I'll link down an app in the description. It should be a fairly old app. I don't know if it technically supports 64-bit devices. I'm going to link down an old app that I had on like my iPhone 2G back in the days of when I used to mess around with it. Tell me if you get the notification or not. If you don't get the notification, that obviously means that the developer updated it for 64-bit devices. But if it's not updated and you're running 10.3 Beta 1, you should get a notification like this that says, quotation marks, whatever the name of the app you're trying to download is, needs to be updated. Then down below it'll say, this app will not work with future versions of iOS. The developer of this app needs to update it to improve its compatibility. So, that doesn't really sound like much if you're just a common user and you don't really know anything about it. You're just going to press OK and then just be like, whatever, I'll keep using the app. But if you know things about iOS and you know things about iOS devices, you'll know that 32-bit devices have been kind of dying lately. So basically what that means is the app, when it was made, was originally written in 32-bit code and was, for whatever reason, the developer decided to stop updating it before 64-bit devices came out, and there was even 64-bit operating systems, and it was never updated. So it didn't really matter up until now because iOS 11 will be coming out soon. I can't give you a definite date for when it'll be coming out, but it'll be sometime, probably September, August, somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that. I forget when they usually come out with it. I know ballpark range, it's around that area, end of summer, I can say that much. And iOS 11 is going to be coming out, and it's probably, like, I'm saying like 90% positive that's going to be a 64-bit only operating system, because iPhone 5 and iPad 4 are the last two devices. Let me think. iPad 2 and iPhone. Bleh. Yeah, I was right. The iPhone 5 and the iPad 4 are the last two devices standing that have a 32-bit processor that run iOS 10, the latest version of iOS. So those are the last two devices, and over the past few months, I'd say, ever since like iOS 9.3, people have been kind of like throwing iOS or 32-bit devices to the side. Think of the iOS 9.3.3 jailbreak. Everyone was like, "Oh, we're not going to release a 32-bit jailbreak for devices. There is an exploit there, but we just don't feel like putting in the work for 32-bit devices because no one uses them anymore." Which I understand. Why put in the work when not as many people will use it? But there are a lot of people like myself that own an iPod 5 or a 4S. besides the point, though. You can just tell just from iOS 9.3 point, or if you want to be exact, 9.3.3, that people were always just throwing 32-bit devices to the side. It was always just like, we don't want to deal with those. And also, think of it with Apple. They the night shift feature. They made it a 64-bit only feature. Guess what? If you had an iPhone 5 or 4S, guess what? Too bad. We didn't write it in... I keep getting interrupted. Why does my cat keep doing this? Anyway, so it was only written in 64-bit code. That was like the first thing that people started doing. And then, of course, the 9.3.3 jailbreak. And then you move on to iOS 10, and there are just a bunch of features that were kind of just left off from the iPhone 5 because guess what? It has a 32-bit processor, and Apple only wrote a bunch of their features inside 64-bit code. They've been doing this for a while, and people just I'm not saying people like everyone, but just the common user just hasn't really noticed. Now look at it. The iOS 10.2 jailbreak has came out, and guess what? It's 64-bit only. Now I don't know if there was the same exploit about for 32-bit devices. I am not a developer, and I haven't heard any developers say anything about that, but there isn't a 32-bit jailbreak still for any iOS device that is running iOS 9.3 or above. And yes, I know there are like people that made jailbreaks, private jailbreaks and that kind of stuff, but there isn't a public jailbreak like iOS 9.3.3 or 10.2 that is out right now for 32-bit devices. So it's no surprise really that 32-bit devices are going to stop getting iOS 11 altogether just because Apple's tired of dealing with 32-bit code and all that fun stuff. It's just, I'm not surprised by it now since I've been kind of seeing it happen since iOS 9.3, but at the same time, a year ago, or not a year ago actually, because this is around the time 9.3 came out, but let's go with 2 years ago actually. 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, I had no idea this would happen. I don't think anyone did. And I was talking to a friend. He said, oh, well, this is kind of the same thing that happened to the ARM v6 series. 3 years after the 3GS came out, they just phased that out. And look at it now. 3 years after the 5S comes out, ballpark range, the iPhone 5 32-bit devices are getting phased out. It's kind of like a cycle. And I was like, you kind of have a point. You kind of do. Overall, I just kind of find it scary that the iPhone 5 and the iPad 4 are the last two 32-bit devices getting support. The iPhone 5 is like one of my favorite iPhones. I love the 5 to absolute death. And I will say I'm kind of glad that they're dropping the 5 on iOS 10 because, contrary to belief, I kind of like the iPhone 5 on iOS 10. And I think it's pretty fast on iOS 10. I think it's going to be if it gets dropped on iOS 10, I believe that it will be the fastest dropped iPhone out. Like, I know, like, technically the 4S is the fastest dropped iPhone right now, but technically at least. But I think the iPhone 4 is faster than the 4S on 9.3.5. That's just what I think. And, it's just going to be kind of nice to see an iPhone 5 on iOS 10 and have it it be so fast because I think it is really fast on iOS 10. So, yeah, the death of 32-bit devices is coming. What do I think about it? I didn't see it coming a little while ago, but I'm not surprised of it now. I mean, should have seen it coming a while ago, really, but whatever. I'm just like, no, keep supporting them, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, it's time to move on. And it's kind of scary to think, like, I don't know much about the differences between the iPhone 5S to the 7, like, depending on, like, what the processors are, if those are all ARM 64. I know they're all 64-bit, but, like, you know what I mean by how there was, like, differences between the iPhone 2G to the 3GS and then the 4 to the 5. It's just, like, what are the differences between the 5S to the 7? Don't say, oh, clock speed and all this other junk. Like, no, you know what I mean by, I hope at least. So yeah, what are your opinions on the 32-bit devices dying? I am disappointed by it, and I don't want it to happen, but at the same time, I think it has to, and at the same time, I think it's a good thing, because the iPhone 5 will probably be the best device ever to be dropped and be somewhat usable. If you have an iPhone 5, I think it's time to upgrade. I'd say keep using it for another 2 to 3 years, but who knows, man? Who knows? App developers can, after iOS 11 comes out, app developers can start just saying, this app requires iOS 11.0 or later, and as soon as you see that, that means that it's written in 64-bit code already. And also, I've heard people say that Musically, I don't use that app. I think that app is stupid, but I heard Musically requires an iPhone 5S or newer. I'm not going to try it myself because I hate Musically. I don't want that clogging up my download history, but tell me if any of you have an iPhone 5 running iOS 10, try downloading Musically, maybe some other apps, and just see what it says. I'll link down that old app, by the way. It's just so that way you can see if you get the notification. Tweet that notification too. I never shout myself out anymore, but I do have a Twitter, guys. That's also linked down the description, and give me a follow. I like tweets and that kind of stuff. Anyway, like I said, thank you for watching, guys. See you all later. I don't know when my next upload's going to be because the weekend's over. I know I've been doing a lot of daily uploads lately, but that's just because I've had a lot of time on my hands, and we might be back on the every 2-week schedule, but I hate that schedule so much. I like uploading for you guys, so I'll have to see what I do. Tell me your thoughts and opinions about the iPhone 5 and iPad 4 dying, which are the last 32-bit devices. Thanks for watching, and peace.